Engineering is a field that involves a great deal of precision, planning, and risk management. However, despite best efforts, mistakes can happen, and the consequences can be devastating. In this video, we will take a look at some of the most expensive engineering mistakes in history. Spanish submarine mistake. $2.2 billion. The Isaac Peral submarine was built by the Spanish government in 2013. Engineers created a submarine that could get to the bottom of the ocean just fine. However, a miscalculation was made. The submarine was unable to resurface again. The submarine engineers tried to rectify this issue by making it bigger. However, it now couldn't fit in the seaport where it was supposed to live, causing more expensive changes. All in all, it cost the Spanish government $2.2 billion. 2. Dubai aquarium leak. $20 billion. Who would have thought that one little, leaky panel joint could cause all this havoc? Certainly not the engineers and construction workers that created the biggest aquarium in Dubai, known as the Indoor Ocean. Luckily, the leak was recognized in time, and all of the animals inside the aquarium survived. However, in order to fix the leak without disturbing the hundreds of huge sharks and highly exotic creatures inside, nearly $20 billion was spent. The SNCF train mistake. $20.5 billion. In 2014, the French rail company, SNCF, manufactured 2,000 new trains in 2014. However, the trains were too wide to fit into many of the old tunnels, small stations and platforms that were found across Europe. In order to rectify the mistake, SNCF spent over $20.5 billion on new trains. Deepwater Horizon oil rig explosion. $65 billion. In 2010, the world was shocked by images of the explosion of the BP Deepwater Horizon. Oil slicked the ocean for hundreds of kilometers around. It was an environmental and economic disaster like we'd never seen before. The company involved, Transocean, had to pay $1.4 billion due to the U.S. Clean Water Act. BP also had to pay an estimate of upwards $65 billion in penalties, compensation and losses. The Apollo 13 space mission. $283 billion. An engineering fault in the Apollo 13 caused 2 oxygen tanks to give out. All of the oxygen had depleted within 3 hours. Luckily, no astronauts were lost. However, the mission was forced to return to Earth earlier than intended, and did not achieve any of the mission's aims. It is estimated this cost the U.S. government $283 billion. Deepwater Horizon oil spill. In 2010, the Deepwater Horizon oil rig, owned by British Petroleum (BP), exploded in the Gulf of Mexico, resulting in the worst oil spill in U.S. history. The explosion was caused by a failure of the rig's blowout preventer, a safety device that is meant to shut off the flow of oil in the event of an accident. The spill resulted in 11 deaths and caused an estimated $61.6 billion in damages and cleanup costs. Chernobyl disaster. The Chernobyl disaster occurred in 1986, when a nuclear reactor in the Chernobyl power plant in Ukraine exploded. The explosion was caused by a combination of design flaws, operator error, and a lack of safety measures. The disaster resulted in the release of radioactive materials into the atmosphere, causing widespread contamination and health effects. The total cost of the disaster is estimated to be around $235 billion. Hubble Space Telescope. The Hubble Space Telescope was launched into orbit in 1990 with the goal of providing clear images of the universe. However, shortly after its launch, it was discovered that the telescope's main mirror had a flaw, which resulted in blurry images. The flaw was caused by a measuring error during the manufacturing process, and the cost of fixing it was $1.5 billion. Tacoma Narrows Bridge collapse. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington state collapsed in 1940, just 4 months after it opened to traffic. The collapse was caused by a design flaw that made the bridge susceptible to high winds, which caused it to sway and eventually collapse. The collapse resulted in the loss of 1 life and caused $6.4 million in damages. In conclusion, engineering mistakes can have devastating consequences, both in terms of human lives and financial costs. The examples listed above serve as a reminder that precision and risk management are essential in the field of engineering. It is critical that engineers learn from these mistakes and take steps to prevent similar accidents in the future.